So we're talking about the beginning of the universe. This is actually something over the past century many have come to conclude actually happened, that the universe had a beginning. And prior to that, many scientists and philosophers thought the universe was past eternal. It wasn't until the past century when science confirmed what Christians had believed for thousands of years. The universe had a beginning. As explained by cosmologist Alexander Vilenkin, all the evidence we have says that the universe had a beginning. Or as explained by astrophysicist Stephen Hawking, almost everyone now believes that the universe and time itself had a beginning. There are many fascinating discoveries pointing to this beginning to the universe. I'm going to give you 4. First, the universe is expanding. This was discovered by Edwin Hubble. He found that there's a stretching of the light. It's turning red as we look out to the edges of the universe, pointing that it is stretching out, and that's why the light is changing. Now, if space is stretching with time, as we wind the clock back, we find that the universe is getting smaller. Now, it can only come back so far, reaching an initial point. It can't go any further back than that. So that's one reason that many scientists think the universe had a beginning. Next, the radiation after. This was discovered by Penzias and Wilson. This is basically the resulting radiation and heat as a result of a cosmic beginning, which explains why it exists everywhere in the universe. Third, the second law of thermodynamics. This states that energy is going from an ordered state to a disordered state within this closed system. Basically, we're running out of usable energy. Now, if you're running out of something, that indicates that it's a limited supply. Something can't be running out forever. If the universe was past eternal, we would have run out by now, but we haven't. So the fact that we are running out of usable energy indicates there was a limited supply, and so we can only go back so far in the past. Now you might ask, does this contradict the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy is never created or destroyed in a closed system? Doesn't running out of energy kind of pose a problem for that? You see, we're not running out of energy per se, we're running out of usable energy. The second law states that energy becomes more entropic. So take a look at this illustration. It's not as though we're running out of energy, but it's that it's becoming more disordered over time. That's what the negative symbols mean. So from time 1 to time 2 to time 3, you see we're running out of usable energy. It's becoming unusable, disordered. So the limited supply is that of usable energy. The universe is becoming entropic, and therefore it can't be running out forever. There must be a limited amount that had a beginning in the past. That's the third reason that scientists are concluding the universe had a beginning. And lastly, Einstein's theory of general relativity. Now, ironically, Einstein didn't want there to be a beginning of the universe. He didn't like the implications of what that would mean. So that's why he famously introduced his fudge factor, trying to divide by 0. Now, if you know math, you know you do not divide by 0. The great Einstein tried, because he did not want there to be a beginning. But eventually his friends, such as Edwin Hubble, convinced him that the universe must have a beginning. And that's when he came up with his famous theory of general relativity, which states that time, space, and matter are correlative. You can't have one without the others, and therefore, all three must have arisen together. And this theory is verified to the 5th decimal point. So we see that these are 4 reasons why scientists are concluding that the universe had a beginning. Now, if these things had a beginning, space, time, matter, and energy, then where did they come from? That's what we know as our world. That's the arena of nature. So what existed? Well, if you think that's all the world is, then you have to say that the universe came from nothing. No space, no time, no matter, no energy. Nothing. Now, when I try to imagine nothing, I might put myself out somewhere simpler, maybe out in space. And then I'm just going to start trying to delete something until I get to nothing. So I'll start by deleting the stars and the planets. Then maybe I'll delete the galaxies. Have I reached nothing yet? No, you see, that's empty space. Just as in reality, that's an empty slide. But that's not nothing. When scientists are talking about literally nothing existing, they mean no space, no time, no matter, no energy. No empty space. Nothing, literally nothing. But how can that create something, much less everything? As explained by philosopher William Lane Craig, to claim that something came into being from nothing is worse than magic. When a magician pulls a rabbit out of the hat, at least you've got a magician, not to mention the hat. We know that everything that comes to exist, that has a beginning, needs a cause. This is the law of causality. For every effect, there's a cause. The universe had a beginning. Therefore, it needs a cause beyond the universe. So how do we figure out what that cause was? We can deduce backwards based on what was created, because whatever created it can't itself be part of the creation. What's that look like? Well, we said that space, time, matter, and energy were created. Therefore, whatever created it must be spaceless, because it created space. So it can itself be composed of space. It must be timeless, because it created time. Can itself be restrained by time. Created matter must be immaterial. It created matter, so it itself cannot be created of matter. And it also must be powerful in order to create the energy. We saw the radiation afterglow, the universe expanding. This is an incredibly powerful event, and therefore, this cause must be powerful. What else? This cause must be supernatural. Now, bear with me for a second. You might think this is a stretch. We said that space, time, matter, and energy are the arena of nature. This is the natural world. So we can deduce that whatever created the natural world is not itself a part of the natural world. It exists somewhere beyond the natural world. And we have a word for that, supernatural, supernatural. I don't mean that necessarily in a weird way yet. I'm just saying it exists beyond the natural world. It's not itself a part of this world that was created. So it exists somewhere out there beyond us. So this cause must be supernatural. It must itself be a part of something that's not this world. It must be changeless. Because it exists timelessly, it cannot be changed in its essence. It exists changelessly. Now, because it exists changelessly, it must also be fully actualized. What does that even mean? Because it's powerful enough to create the universe and exists changelessly in essence, that means it's always been powerful enough to create the universe. It didn't change to become powerful enough to create the universe. And this is what brings us to the last point. This cause must also be a personal free agent. Now, why? Because this cause has always been powerful enough to create the universe, then you'd expect the universe, the effect, to always be there as well. It works like this with the law of causality. When the cause is present and prepared, the effect is also there just as long. For example, when water freezes, the cause is that you have water, but the temperature is dropped below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. As soon as the cause is present and prepared, you have the temperature in the water, the effect is going to be there too. Now, the thing about the universe is that the cause has always been present and prepared, so you'd expect the effect to always be there as well. It's like if the temperature's always been below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, you'd always expect to have ice from eternity past. But we have good reason to believe that the universe had a beginning. So even though this cause is fully actualized, it's always been powerful enough to create the universe, it did it at a precise moment. It went from a state of non-creation to a state of creation. In order for it to not be subject to the circumstances that it has to do it just because it's ready, it must be an agent. That just means it's free from its circumstances to make a choice, go from non-creating to creating. And only persons have choices, so this cause must be a personal, free agent. Therefore, these are the qualities we have, just deducing backwards from the fact that the universe had a beginning and what we know about the universe. This cause must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, powerful, supernatural, changeless, fully actualized, and personal. Now, what does that sound like? Sure, it sounds like it could be God. It doesn't necessarily point us that it has to be God, but it could be. And this is one of the reasons that Einstein didn't want there to be a beginning to the universe. He recognized there were implications to that. He's not the only one, as we see other scientists. For example, cosmologist Alan Sandage of Carnegie Observatory said, "We can't understand the universe in any clear way without the supernatural." He recognized the implications. Or take astronomer Robert Jastrow, who said, "Astronomers now find that they have painted themselves into a corner because they have proven by their own methods that the world began abruptly in an act of creation. And they found that all this happened as a product of forces they cannot hope to discover. So there, what I or anyone else would call supernatural forces at work is now, I think, a scientifically proven fact." There's good reason to believe that the universe had a beginning. And there are implications for what that means, that there must be a cause outside of the universe. There are implications of what that cause must be like. Scientists are recognizing the implications.